So I got away with for Christmas. I wanted to figure out where to actually put it. I know online you can buy those barbecue boxes which mount to the rear bar for Thorburns and your cruiser companies, but one, I wanted to sort of see how else I could do it, and two, the bar that I've got, I think it's an Outback accessories bar, doesn't really, unless I buy another swing away arm, it's not really going to work with those boxes because they're quite modular. I didn't want to keep it in the car. It's just a bit of a pain traveling around with a barbie it's a bit dirty in the car, and I also don't have the space. So what the plan is to take off this tyre. Don't really need to be traveling around with two tyres. So the current setup that I've got for traveling and cooking is a bit of a pain because the drawer doesn't come fully way out, and it sort of gets shit all over my bed. So it comes out to about here. I want to sort of move away from that and just be cooking outside. So this is the box that I got. Decided to go powder coated just because it looks a bit nicer, which you can get it a bit cheaper if you just go the base alley. It works out really well because the way it sort of opens, it's just a generator storage toolbox. The way it opens is I can have this open with the swing away arms closed or open, and it fits, I think the dimensions are, it's 750 wide, 500 deep, and then 550 high. So it'll fit the older model and the newer ones pretty perfectly. Obviously, if you wanted to keep your gas bottle inside, you probably have to go a bit wider. But look, this is the easiest option, and I look at having the gas bottle either on the outside or on one of the tyres. So we'll get this tyre off and see what the box looks like. So the plan to mount the box is I'll drill some holes through the box, run these studs through, and then I've got this bit of steel which I'll cut this section off, and then this will go inside the box, mount onto the studs, and that really should sandwich it together and give it enough support. Given that it's only around 14 kilos and a 33-inch tyre weighs double that easily, it really should be enough weight. If not, I'll run a bracket which comes down here and supports it from underneath, which will stop it from swaying. So I got the holes drilled, touched them up just a little bit. I'll put a bit of paint on the inside of those just so they don't rust out. With a bit of luck, it should fit onto the studs. That's good. And then this bracket will fit onto there. So that should sandwich it. We'll check how it looks when I take this off. We'll tighten them up and see what flex we've got and whether or not we need to make those bottom brackets. Sort of confirm my suspicion. Just that one plate just doesn't give it enough support. It is way too flexy. Given that it's only 2.5mm checker plate, sort of thought that'd be the case, especially because this isn't centered, because I've sort of wanted to get the boxes as close to the second wheel as I can. So once you add a bit of weight to that, it's just going to flex right in this middle. So what I'll end up doing is I'll build those brackets on the outside. So to figure out sort of lengths, dimensions, and how I want to weld this bracing, I'm just going to make it, add a bit of cardboard first, and then lay out the dimensions. Then I can pop down to Bunnings, just grab some mild steel and see how we go. So the plan is to run a flat bar down there and a flat bar, and that'll just bolt into the studs. And then underneath, I'll then run a bit of equal angle, so that'll support the box. Now I was going to weld these together, but I think it'll be easier if I just drill and bolt, because then it's just easy to take apart, and I don't need to worry about getting the angles or the dimensions right, because I can sort of play around with that as I go. So I just got some 75mm flat bar, 6mm thick, it should be plenty for the support bracing, and then for underneath I just got some 40x40 5mm, which will sit underneath the box. So now that I've cut everything to size, I've got the two back braces, just sort of sit a little bit like this, and now bolt on to the bottom brace, so that'll sit underneath the box. Give it a bit more rigidity side to side, hopefully get rid of that wobble. So what we can do now, put the box back on, I'll look at getting those a bit more flush, understanding sort of exactly where I want to bolt, and then we can probably cut off the ends just to trim it, make it look nice. So to get the box on the ground, it'll be much easier to line up exactly where I want this bracing. because I can just put it over the bolt holes, get it pretty well relative exactly to where I sort of want it. And then once I have it, I can just go on underneath, mark the holes, drill them through and bolt them. So I've got the holes for the back bracing all in. As you can see, this comes off. I put a little bit of scrap here, just so it sits flush and you don't have that bending. So the next step is to bolt on the bottom support, so that'll sit underneath the box. All right, new day. I ended up getting a little bit distracted last night, and I decided to brace it in the middle as well. So these bolts, I've also drilled out some holes to actually sit in the box to stop it from moving side to side. So what we'll do now is we'll put the box back on. I'll look at lining up this angle on the base just so that it's all level. I've got some holes already drilled, so we'll line it up, mark out with a pen exactly where those sit. And once we've got that, take the box off and I'll cut out these bottom pieces. So now the box is on, you can see there's a lot less movement side to side because I've braced it actually onto the box rather than just having those flat bars resting. So as you can see, that flat bar coming across has been actually pushed up into the box. Just there's stuff all movement. So this is what the bracing looks like behind the box. I've just got this flat bar running across, bolted in to the actual box itself, and then it's supported by these diagonal bars which are sitting on the studs. Now I've already drilled these holes for the angle on the bottom. Now initially I was going to be running it like this, so I have the equal angle pointing down. Sort of makes it a bit easier to bolt, but now that there's this in between this flat bar and the box, I can actually sit it snug on the box itself. So the bottom brace is on, it's looking pretty tidy, sits pretty hard up against the box, which is good. I might end up putting a bit of rubber underneath, just on the angle, just to stop it from rubbing the powder coating off. We'll paint these, and while we're painting those, we'll look to do the internals. All right, so this is the painting station. Is it rudimentary? Yes. Does it work? Yes. So I've just got a can of Rust-Oleum paint and primer, keeping it pretty simple since it's just mild steel bracing. It's not going to look very fancy. So I'll clean these up, get all the shit off them, apply coat of this, and let it dry. Also, apologies for the juicy sweat marks. It's about 39 degrees here in Perth, so it's quite warm. So now that we've done the bracing to the back of the box, now we can move on to the fun part, which is actually fitting out the internals. So as you can see, the barbie fits perfectly inside, but when you go to lift up a hood, it catches. So I really want to be able to cook with this open at times. So I really want to design something where I can move this out so that we can keep this open, and then it just folds back in nice and easily. Now given this has got a bit of a lip here, it's about a 50mm, 75mm lip, I wanted to figure out whether or not I use drawer slides. So I have a false floor and then drawer slides to come out, but I didn't want to design the false floor with a heap of timber and adding onto weight. So instead of drawer slides, I found these online. They lift up coffee table mechanisms. They're pretty popular in camp fit outs. So what I was thinking, to have these mounted to a bit of alley, which is bolted into the box. So the first step is to mount this lifting mechanism up to the alley and then figure out exactly how wide we want it with the other piece. Now we'll bolt it as far up to the front as we can so that it comes out as far as possible. And once we do that, we can figure out the width and then look at mounting a bit of timber on the top, and which will house the barbie. So I've measured up the dimensions on how wide and long I want the timber. It's going to be around 600 wide, 400 deep. So what I'll do is I'll mark it up on this bit of timber that I had left over. We'll cut that and then we'll bolt it to the slides and see how we go. All right, so what I've done is, because I'm cutting with a circ saw and I don't have a jig or anything, what I've done is I've just clamped a bit of square tube right on the 32mm mark, which will line up exactly with my blade so that it cuts right on 600mm. So that should give me a nice square and straight cut. So if anyone can tell me why these grub screws exist, other than to piss people off when you're trying to get a nice run along the wood, that'd be great. And as you can see, just using that sort of mock-up jig I get a really nice flat finish along the timber instead of trying to do it by eye, because I'm sort of a bit ratchet at that. Now it's time to mount the timber onto the actual slides, just with some 15mm timber screws. Now I want to get the front of this timber as close to the lip of the box as I can, just to try and hide these slides when it's closed in. Now there is a locking mechanism at the front of the box which I'll have to account for, so I'll have to leave around a 20mm gap at the front so that the box is able to actually lock. So as you can see, I've got the lift ups on, but the timber's actually quite bowed that I've been using. And it's bowed because what happens when you laminate one side and you seal it from moisture, the other side sucks in a lot more moisture, which causes it to bend. And it's also means it's a pain in the ass to actually get the bow out. So I'm gonna try and get the bow out by putting a bit of water on this side, hopefully absorb it, leave it in the sun for a bit. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to use another bit of timber. So I can't really seem to get the bow out. I'm gonna have to leave it in the sun for a day, just with a bit of weight on top. I've tried steaming it, putting water underneath, but because it's laminated on one side, really doesn't want to absorb any moisture. So we've got the timber cleaned up, looks a bit nicer with those edges rounded. We've got the alley painted, so now we can put it all together and put it in the box and figure out exactly where we want to mount these. So we've got these holes drilled, so what we'll do is we'll put it in exactly where we want it, and then we'll drill these holes out in the box and then just use some M8 bolts. Alright, so I bolted it in. It's really sturdy, which is good to see. Also when I bolted it in, the alley actually flattened out the timber a bit. Still a bit bowed, but that's just the nature of it. I'm actually not too worried about it. Alright, so I've taken the handles off the Weber. It's just 2 bolts, it's nice and easy. Gives it enough clearance. Sits on this nice, fits perfectly. So if we raise it up, it comes out without catching anything. Alright, so the final piece of the puzzle is to get the bracing all back on, get the box on the back, see how it looks. So the box is back on. As you can see, that bracing really helps. It's actually a lot stronger than what I initially thought. If you look inside here, barbecue fits. So having a bit better look at it on this side, which is probably where I'll predominantly cook, considering I want access to the back. This comes out and fits in really well. I'll end up having a table or something here with all my utensils and whatever I'm actually cooking. This goes out quite nicely. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't really done something like this before, recording myself. It's a bit odd. Makes the job twice as hard and 3 times as long. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, let us know. And hopefully this helps anyone. Reach out if you have any questions. I'm all ears, and I'm always up for improvements. So cheers, thanks a lot.